Hey, Skift Travel Podcast listeners. You're probably wondering, who is this guy and why am I hearing him on my favorite podcast? Well, my name is Will Slickers, and my company was recently acquired by Skift, and we are bringing in our group of podcasts to the Skift ecosystem, and I couldn't be more excited about this new opportunity. My new role here at Skift is Director of Audio and Video Strategy, and today we're not actually going to hear from Seth or Sarah as they're taking a summer break from the podcast, and we'll be back leading up to our Skift Global Forum. On this episode, you're actually going to hear from our hosts at Good Morning Hospitality. I co-host this show, and we started the show about 5 years ago. And this podcast is a lot of fun because it is a live streamed broadcast where we actually record the show live with an actual live audience from LinkedIn and YouTube and engage with them during the recording. On Mondays, we mostly cover short-term rental content, and on Wednesdays, we cover a lot of hotel content with our hotel crew, Sarah Dandashy and Steve Turk. The voices you'll be hearing on this episode are myself, Michael Golden, the COO of Nook, which is an outdoor experiential brand, Brandy Canali, who is the COO of Romy, which is a short-term rental multi-family operator. And then, of course, you'll hear from the one and only Jamie Lane, who is the chief economist at AirDNA. Now, like I said, our Monday episodes mostly cover short-term rental content, but this episode was really fun because we do a predictions episode at the beginning of every year, and then we revisit our predictions at the end of the year and see what we hit and what we missed. So get ready, because in December, you'll see what ones we hit and what ones we missed from this episode. But without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Good Morning Hospitality right here on Skift.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jamie.
Jamie started,
Lane.
but before we went live, Jamie was hatless, and now Jamie has a hat to match the green theme that we all accidentally did this morning.
Well, it's our predictions show, and we all are wearing green. So I don't know if that says anything about what's to come, but
Hopefully some money this year. That's what I'm saying.
that is what I was trying to allude to, Will. You got it.
Anyone predict that I was going to have a hat on when we went live?
Not.
I saw it happen in real time behind the scenes. I was watching everybody. No, just kidding. But no, that was hilarious. Jamie, it's way to go improv. I love it. Your skills are great.
It's a different side of Jamie that I don't think we've seen before.
Yeah, I'm not a hat person.
Hell,
Same.
love it. Well, how was the weekend before we get into all the fun stuff that we have for this episode? And then, of course, this is our traditional hospitality predictions episode for the year that we revisit at the end of every year in December to see what we hit and what we missed. And this year, it was a mixed bag. We had some misses for sure. Definitely, I had one. And then we had some hits, and I think it's going to be a fun tradition to see now with our European crew and our hotel crew participate as well. But how's the weekends? Catch me up, guys. How are we doing?
I'm kind of sick, so I was just at home. Nothing exciting.
Hey, at least you stayed in. You had a chill weekend for once instead of traveling and all your craziness. So glad you got some chill time.
We got 4 inches of snow here in Atlanta. So Friday school was out, snow day. We made a snowman, went sledding, and snow's still on the streets. So, but fortunately, kids were in school. That was a big concern going into the weekend on whether or not the schools are going to open today.
Yep. Yeah, we had a snow day on Friday without any snow. So kids were home and didn't get to play in anything fun. We had enough sleet to do one ice ball that my 5-year-old threw at me, but it was a long weekend because we weren't expecting a day at home on Friday, and then just cold, not great to go out and play in Saturday, Sunday. So long weekend. Excited that it's Monday, best day of the week.
It's funny because when you're a kid, you're like, doing everything in your power to summon a snow day. And like growing up on Lake Ontario, like 4 inches, nothing. Like if it's a foot, still you're going to school. Like there's nothing stopping the schools from closing. And it's so funny now hearing from a parent's perspective, you're like, oh my God, please let the schools open. Like I can't do a 4-day weekend.
Good to know. I'm taking note from all of you guys. I'm just like, all right. Snow days are not good for parents. I thought they were great. I guess not. I'm changing my mind.
Well, actual snow, when you can go out and play and enjoy,
Yeah.
especially the age that Jamie's kids are, it'd be a lot of fun. But a snow day when there's no snow is,
Yeah.
especially when you come off of a 2.5 weeks of no school.
Yeah, true.
It's exhausting. So
Also, in this new age of remote work, like the work doesn't stop.
Yeah, that's true. You're still going into the office because the office is inside. So
yeah.
So who wants to kick off our predictions? I think Brandy is the one and only Miss Canali to go first. So welcome and let's get into it.
all right. So this year we saw kind of different, not necessarily shakeups, but different moves on the OTA front, especially kind of this big push by Booking.com. And so one of my predictions for next year or this year is that Booking.com is going to continue to eat away, I think, pretty large swaths of Airbnb's inventory, especially in urban markets. And then on the flip side of that, I think Vrbo is going to continue to try to do that in the more sea and ski markets, but I think they will be not as successful as Booking.com. But Booking.com really, I think, has a lot of power behind it to eat at Airbnb's market share.
Nice.
Okay.
That's a good one. I'm going to go with an OTA one as well, but a lower OTA market share over the next few years because of credit card competition, hotels branding, direct booking emphasis, and the potential of AI. So I don't know if it'll be a 2025 or 2026, but in the next year or two, we might see OTA market share lower.
I
Brandy-
actually would agree with you on that. Yeah, I think, and to your point, I don't know if it's going to be 2025, but I think that is going to be the trend where you might see the playing field even out a little bit and the OTAs not have as much of a dominance. I think realistically, they're the ones that have so much of the spending power. So I don't think it's going to go away, but you will start to see like hotel chains, for example, can we claw back some of those direct bookings for sure.
Yeah, they're not the only one with spending power. Credit cards have spending power, hotel
Yeah.
chains have spending power, but they are the incumbent and they spend literally billions of dollars a year. So they're not going anywhere, but to lose market share by 1, 2, 3% is meaningful. And I think we look at what the average branded hotel mix with direct bookings versus OTAs, and finger to the wind, Jamie can correct me, I think it's pretty much 50-50. It's not nearly as drastic as it is in short-term rentals with reliance on the OTAs.
But the OTAs have been gaining still, and they've been taking back from direct booking from other sources. And you got to believe if the sort of ChatGPTs or Geminis of the world become a significant source of bookings, that the OTAs are going to be putting massive amounts of money into those to try to and drive bookings through those platforms. And they're all going to be looking to make money off of the massive spend that they've seen and sort of invested. So
it takes one line of code, Jamie. Book directly for AI to bypass the OTAs.
But if they're incentivized to drive bookings to the OTAs and they get paid for it,
yep, could be the other way.
Would be.
Yep, the black box of OTA algorithms. So
Yep,
the big wild card. So Jamie, well, I guess Jamie, piggybacking on Brandy's, do you feel that the market trends back a little bit more towards urban, especially for booking, but potentially for Vrbo?
I definitely see the trend of booking coming into the US, growing market share. Like we see it in the data. They're still a relatively small player, but as they've made investments, like they've clearly been in becoming a option. And like I didn't use it as one of my predictions, but it's a trend that you see of like properties that are cross listing, like even single hosts, like people with one property. Like 6 years ago, it was like 3% of hosts were cross listed on multiple channels. Now it's 20%. So the fact that even like a host that was only using Airbnb in the past is now using a channel manager like Guesty, Hostway, Uplisting, and they're listing on Booking, they're listing on Vrbo, where and in the past they would have just been on Airbnb, and that and sort of dominance or growing dominance of the sort of channel manager property management system is a trend that I think is going to continue.
Well, as we've seen like Airbnb develop more, as we said in the past, as kind of a PMS somewhat, trying to keep hosts on the same platform, trying to integrate locks, integrate this, integrate that. Do you think that's going to be the downfall of them, that they won't be able to connect to other channels, that they're only going to be on Airbnb? So they're going to lose, like, even though they're attempting to keep people on the same platform for their operations, that they're not going to be able to really stay successful in that, in the sense of there's no extra distribution. Yeah, it may make operations a little bit easier, but you're not going to be able to list on Vrbo unless you have a uplisting, Guesty, Hostaway, etc. Like you said, Jamie.
Yeah, and they're making it easier for people, and there are always going to be a large percent that are sort of sold to Airbnb, and you want to create systems for them to sort of automate their business. But and that share that is exclusive is declining.
Yeah, and I would say what reigns supreme in all of this is money. Like the Airbnb can make it easy for you to operate within their ecosystem, but are you making enough money by just being on Airbnb? And then there are so many PMS channel manager options, some that are very affordable if you're doing the basics, that kind of switch will be pretty like common sense, I think.
And I think it's just the life cycle of where we are as an industry. I mean, at this point, Airbnb is 15 years old. So the professionalization has happened in a large way with the management side of things. You're using software, using dynamic pricing, et cetera. But the gap is on the single host side. And I think there's education now. There's enough coaches and podcasts and people to follow, as well as tools like an Uplisting that can help service some of the smaller side of the market. Wink, wink. Ad read right there. And that's going to help drive it. And I think also the Bookings of the world are willing to invest time and resources, maybe not cash, but time and resources into some of those companies to start pulling those listings off of exclusively Airbnb and share them more openly to the world.
So one of my predictions, and this I think will be a clear headwind for all of the OTAs. So in the US, I expect 1/3, 30% of US markets to see a decline in the number of listings that they have in 2025 compared to 2024. So if we look at the trend, so this time last year, there were 7 markets that saw a year-over-year decline in listings. Currently, it's around 60.
Wow.
I think that's going to increase to over 100 at this time next year.
Wow.
And so I think there's a lot of factors to that. What would you say is like, what are the top 2 driving factors?
Yeah, I'm very curious.
Yeah. So one is just pure investability. So we've had interest rates totally reverse course, and 30-year fixed rates are now above 7%. New home listings are at 3-year lows. And we've been in a housing recession. That's going to continue into 2025, and people hoping for a reverse course in that, I think, are going to be solely disappointed. So we currently have, and there's, and in an average month now, about 61,000 new listings being added onto Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking, sort of across the US. There's about 52,000 listings churning out each month. which is relatively high. So you sort of decrease new listings just a little bit, churn stays the same, and that makes it really hard to grow supply. Then the other factor I think, and might resonate with you, Brandy, is regulation. Like we're seeing more regulation come in, especially in some urban markets like New Orleans, really
Yeah,
top of mind right
huge.
now. That I don't think in many of these markets you see a New York style impact where you see massive decreases overnight, but you do see a reduction in new investment and listings start to decline over time.
Yeah, I think on the regulation side, I'm like not opposed to it. You know, if you're a like if you're behaving responsibly and following the like all of the regulations in place, you want kind of like a sweep to come and get rid of some of those other actors. But I mean, New Orleans, for example, is kind of crazy because they're like, okay, after Super Bowl, then we're going to start enforcing this. And it's really convenient. But yeah, I think regulation is huge for that. There's a lot of places that are just making it incredibly difficult.
For sure. Michael? Or is it me?
It's you.
Yeah,
okay.
you go ahead. I'll just make one comment on that. I
Yeah.
mean, the fact of waiting until after the Super Bowl, I don't know why a New York City wouldn't say during UN week, you can rent, anybody can rent out their home. Doesn't matter. But for
Yeah.
those 5 days or 7 days or however long it lasts, like it's very practical. And that's actually where some of the old school laws on the books span back to the masters in Augusta. So the whole 14 days that you can rent out your house without having to pay taxes on it is literally, I think it's called the Augusta rule because of the masters and how much demand went. There's not enough hotels in Augusta, so people would just open up their homes. Same with the Olympics. I remember when the Olympics came to Atlanta in 1996, there were people just like figuring out, taking classified ads to like, hey, you can come stay with us for the month or 2 weeks. And my uncle hosted one of the gold medal award winning volleyball players. So,
Oh, no way. That's really cool.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, I have two predictions for this year, but the first one I'm going to say is kind of a two-themed prediction. And obviously, as we saw the news of Casago going after or acquiring Vacasa, I think obviously local is going to be a big kind of shift in the way management companies think. But with that, the bigger theme is I know we saw a ton of venture capital and private equity come into the space from the terms of like building a brand. So Front Desk, Domio, all those kind of brands that kind of came in. And then also the tech side, right? Like a lot of companies, how many stories did we cover over the last couple of years on not acquisitions, but fundraising? So a lot of our favorite friends in the industry and companies that we all know and love have raised a ton of cash. And I think that investment is going to shift away from the tech and the brands, and it's going to go more into in-city or in-destination infrastructure because we know property management companies are hard to run. They're not a hotel. They're not centralized in one building or one spot outside of like properties like Brandy's or companies like Brandy's. But I think that's where the money is going to shift. As we saw, Fairly open up, which was started by one of the Vacasa co-founders. You have Well and Good Professional Services, which is growing like crazy, 18 locations across the country. So my hope and my prediction is that investment will shift away from the brands and the tech, which I think it's still going to happen. It's not going to say it's no investment, but I'm predicting that it's going to shift away from that a little bit. And we're hopefully going to be smart and build infrastructure to actually help the operations on the ground, because that's what's going to make our industry really rise and kind of compete with the hotel side, or not even compete, but be up to the par of hotels. So that's my first prediction is that. And I think the Vacasa Casago story is kind of a big leader for it.
I like that prediction. I think in general, investors like our space. It's fun. It's sexy. The big number, the TAM numbers are huge. However, there really aren't success stories. Vacasa, massive fail. Sonder, massive fail. Domio, Front Desk, there's so many like big dollar investments that haven't panned out.
For sure.
But if Casago can pull this off and localize all of the Vacasa markets, for every Remax, there's a Caldwell, right?
Yeah.
And there will be significant investment into 4 or 5 other companies that are trying to do the same thing. You know, they won't all work out, but you know, some will rise up, and there will be some competition to Casago if they're able to pull it off. And I hope they do, and I expect they do. And that may take us another year or two to get some early signals. But if the signs start to turn favorable with Casago, then I do think we'll see some significant investment, like you're saying, on the local approach.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's not even just like the brand side, right? Like the operators. I'm thinking of like, again, Well and Good comes to mind. Fido comes to mind. These infrastructure services that are helping the brands execute this hospitality at a certain level with decentralized inventory. I think that's like the investment, right? Like there may not be a success story on the brand, but it's because we never really had the true foundation. I think that cities or destinations truly need to support a brand like a Casago or Vacasa. Costco obviously has figured it out around that because they actually build the infrastructure in their own locations or markets. But it's the biggest issue if you look at scale, right? We've never seen a scaled property management company to a certain degree of a Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, etc. So that's why I'm hoping that we can find ways to do that, and that hopefully the investment shifts away from the sexy stuff, because sexy is great, but it's not working because we don't have a good foundation, I don't think. So if we could shift the money towards practical, and I know that's not maybe the most fun thing for investors and VCs to hear, but like legit, like invest in the unsexy companies and it will make the sexy sexy again. So yeah, anyways, that's my comment.
Make sexy sexy again.
Hey baby.
So enlightened.
But I also think in that point of like these big companies that made a big splash were all VC funded, and I just don't think that this industry is ripe for that kind of investor. Like the type of returns that they're looking for, the type of company they're looking for is not a good match with this industry, in my opinion. And I think we just saw that like play out pretty clearly. But I have another acquisition prediction kind of in that vein. And I think we're going to see another kind of like hotel flag, kind of like Marriott, go after another STR company. So my guess would be an urban operator, because that fits more in line with like their.
How many big urban operators are there, Brandy? You can't make a prediction about your own company.
I know, but we have
cheating.
Too small.
That's an inside track.
We have too small of a footprint right now for that to be like, we're dense, but we only have 2 markets, and so I think that we're not on the table right now. There's no insider trading happening.
You could franchise.
That's possible. But I just, I think that makes a logical next step, because Marriott really has been blazing the trail for the hotel flags of like getting, with Homes and Villas, with the Sonder agreement, which is still like this nebulous mass that no one like truly understands. So I think there's going to be another hotel flag that's going to make a big play into our industry, because there's a lot of catch up to do. They've tried, but nothing has been as successful as what Marriott has done so far.
And the fact that now they're going in and doing licensing deals and not have to actually buy that, like I think it make it much more
quiet, Jamie.
Possible.
Quiet.
Yeah, that's Michael's prediction.
That's my prediction. Well, I'm going to add a new prediction. I will bet Romy gets into the franchising model this year, just based on the comments that we heard right there. So, if you need any help, then call up Schwab and he can help you guys.
Yeah, we'll let him. We'll see how this year goes, and then we'll be like, hey, so what were the do's and don'ts that you learned from this year?
Yeah. So 2026 prediction. Got it.
Yeah.
And Jamie totally spoiled mine. It sounds like it might be one of his as well.
Nope.
But I do foresee more earn and burn partnerships with the major flags. Last year.
What do you mean, like earn and burn? Can you define that a little bit?
I can, yeah. So basically distribution only agreements where people can, where the OTAs or rather the flags are taking essentially an OTA structure with the companies, and they're also able to earn and burn their loyalty points. So we saw with Marriott the Sonder deal. We also saw Trailborn right at the end of the year. With Hyatt, we saw Under Canvas. With Hilton, we saw AutoCamp and SLH. So that was 5 that I saw last year. I have to imagine there's going to be a lot more of that coming. And once that cat's out of the bag, yeah, I've never seen behind the veil on these. My guess is there's a first right of refusal to acquire these companies. I could be totally wrong. If that's not in place, it does seem a little out of character just to basically pivot into becoming an OTA. But that kind of plays into my first prediction that as hotels build out this distribution play, that the OTA's market share will decline a little bit.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I had thought about it as one of my predictions, but honestly thought that you were going to do it. So I
you know me too well.
But and where 2025 could be an accelerator year is if it's really seen as each brand that's potentially out there can only do one licensing deal. Like Sonder can't now go out and do it with Hilton or IHG or some of these other hotel brands. So there becomes like if they see that it works, like that, you got to go out and sign Romy quick before they sign with someone else. Like
true. Yeah. Who's got that key money? 10 million. That's the going starting offer. Anybody? I'll broker the deal. Just call me first.
For a modest fee. For a modest fee.
I'll do your admin work so I can get a little bit of funnel down on that money. Green.
But I mean, in all reality, so those are the big ones, right? Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton. There's a core in Europe that there's probably some companies ripe for this in Europe. And there's IHG in the US. And then there's Wyndham and Choice. I don't know whose loyalty is biggest besides Marriott and Hilton. But I would imagine, if you get past those top 4 or 5, then it falls off pretty drastically.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, my last prediction of this year, and no surprise, it has to do with Uber. So what up? Okay. So I'm not joking. I'm bullish on Uber, and I may have been wrong on the mega super app potential acquisition of Expedia, but on Delta's 100-year anniversary in Vegas, they announced an exclusive partnership with Uber to be the one and only ride-sharing app that you can use if you book or fly with Delta. So that wasn't the only exclusive partnership that Uber announced throughout the CES event in Vegas, which is like the biggest technology conference or summit you can ever find in the world. There's tons of announcements. I think Uber obviously is going to get more into travel, and they may not go the acquisition route, but this exclusive partnership they're doing on more than just the Uber front. They're doing on Uber Eats with restaurants. So they're getting more and more into these brands. I think they're building out a great infrastructure to then build a connected super app that maybe they don't need to acquire Expedia, but they're going to do a deep integrated partnership with them that's going to be exclusive. So that's my thinking. They are still going to the app of travel, but not through potential acquisition. I'm thinking strategic partnerships, and airlines were the first to get that announcement, and I think it's going to slowly trickle down its way. So
should we get an Uber sponsorship for the podcast?
I'm gunning for it. I'll take it. I'll take Uber credits as payment too. I don't give a shit.
I have no comment really. Cool. I don't know one way or another.
Yeah, well, I'm bullish on Uber. I think Uber is going to change travel forever, and it may not be this year, but throughout their planning and the way Dara is leading the mission and the vision of the company, I think it's bound to happen, and there's no competition. They're going to blow everybody out of the water.
Wow, this like love and passion for Uber. I wish I felt that about anything.
Anybody else got a final prediction for the year?
I do. So
all right, here we go.
I'm gonna go with a pessimistic one for
end on a high note. That's great.
For 2025. And then I know. I got two. I'll throw out my last one too as a wild card, but I think travel to the US is going to be down in 2025. So we actually saw it was up pretty significantly in 2024, up 17%. Um, and I think we've got some new headwinds sort of coming into 2025. Dollar has been strengthening, hit a new high. And then I think it is in the Trump presidency. U.S. is a brand, and we saw it during the first presidency, first term for Trump, that we actually saw travel to the U.S. come down 1% in 2017, further down throughout 18, 19. We saw travel from China to the U.S. down 12% throughout the presidency. And if we do get into the scenario, and we already see the rhetoric sort of starting to heat up between U.S. and Canada, U.S. and Greenland, U.S. and Mexico, U.S.
Greenlanders are not coming to America, that's for sure. All 50,000 of them.
Right.
All those numbers.
And it could just be rhetoric. But if we get into trade wars with more country, I do worry about what that means for U.S. as a brand and just consumers, international travelers choosing to travel to other countries and not to the U.S. And that can be very detrimental to companies like Romy that I'm sure, and being in Miami and New Orleans, a large percent of your traveler base is coming from overseas.
Yep.
That's why she's betting on booking. Needs booking to come through.
Yeah.
And then my wild card, I'll just throw it out, is that I think at least one tech company is going to go public, STR tech company in 2025.
Bold. I will also say I bet there will be mergers and acquisitions. So
blanket statement always wins.
There might be a company close as well. Who knows? If we're feeling frosty, but
well, I do think obviously continuing consolidation in the industry is a real trend. And then I think you are going to, we said that last year you kind of see some of the weaker players start to fall off. And I think that's just going to continue. Like the companies that don't have a path to profitability, that kind of thing, their cash is going to start to run out. And depending on how well funded they are, it could take another year, it could take another 2 years, but we're definitely seeing the bifurcation of companies that are, actually stable and going to succeed in the long term, and those that are just going to kind of start to fall off.
Well, and similarly, the companies that are struggling, I do think there will be some familiar faces fade away. When companies struggle, boards replace them. So
yeah.
We might see some of our friends and some others not here anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think at the very least, it's going to be a very fun and spicy year for Good Morning Hospitality. Lots of things to report on.
Yes. I was also going to throw out that wild card. Good Morning Hospitality is going to double in size of audience in events and retreats, and all of our content. We're about to blow up this year. That's my wild card. There we go.
Wow.
Just kidding. Sorry. I had to do it. You set me up perfectly, Brandy.
Sales of coffee will more than 10x.
Yes, 100%. I'm actually out of coffee. I have to order more because all my friends were over for all the football games yesterday, and I gave them out as party favors as everyone departed. I was like, here, have some coffee. Also, BT Dubs, been drinking the coffee for a month straight without anything else. I ran out, obviously, like I said, and this morning I had my Nespresso coffee. It tastes so bad compared to I don't like any. I'm actually really upset. So anyways, that was my random comment of the day. But back to you, Brandy. Just kidding.
We can tell you've had a lot of coffee today.
Yeah. I know. I'm honestly I've been no coffee since Thanksgiving, and sometimes I think I'm gonna have to add it. Now I need to add it in for emergencies, because being sick and drinking tea, it feels good for your throat, but the energy is just not the same.
No, I feel you.
All right, well, we snuck in a lot of predictions there at the end, so yes. We'll see which ones come true. But that was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see the Europe cruise predictions and the hotel cruise predictions as well.
For sure. So on that note, for all of our listeners, viewers, and morning people, check out the episodes coming out this week and next week. I think our European crew has their predictions dropping tomorrow. And then next week will be our hotel. Maybe this week. We're trying to spice it up, see what's going on. Sarah is in LA. So we had some adjustments with scheduling due to the fires. But there's going to be a ton of stuff coming out on the channel. And just an FYI, if you are not a subscriber to the Good Morning Hospitality newsletter, you have to do it. I'm not saying that just to get your email, which I kind of am. But at the end of the day, we're actually getting ready to gear up our marketing and drop exclusive content for any of our subscribers before we go live. We're going to get all the exclusives before everybody else on the live channels. So we want to make sure that you are getting in the know before everyone else. So go subscribe, go to goodmorninghospitality.com to sign up today. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of the week, and we'll see what predictions end up coming true. Ta-ta for now.